Okay, so now we'll do some more problems on that same worksheet, but we're going to do these like number 4, the height and distance. If you ever took any physics in high school, you may or may not recognize some of these things. But the height, after you toss the ball up, times seconds. So if I go through this, I look at some things with these. And first of all, just to kind of get an idea about the function, what does h of t mean? No, I didn't mean to ask that question. What does h of 0 mean? Okay, h of 0 means what's the height when, I'm sorry, I'm out of practice. What's the height, oh, for goodness sakes, what's the height at t equals 0? So, in other words, what's the initial height? Okay, so if I put 0 in for t over here, negative 16 times 0 squared plus 64 times 0 plus 190. So that means my initial height, my h of 0, is 190. So that means I must have shot this off of a cliff of some sort, 190 feet in the air. So that's my initial height. Okay, that's, how high up it was when it first started, when t was 0. Okay, so as you can imagine, if I have a cliff and I shoot something up in the air, it's going to follow a path like this, and then it's going to fall back down again. Okay? And if you took any physics in high school, at this maximum, how fast is it going? And at that point, the speed is 0. It's no longer traveling up. It stops, and it has to turn back down and come back down again. So this is my maximum height. My maximum height is here. The question is, what's the t value for my maximum height? Okay, so again, we're doing maximums. That's all about finding the axis of symmetry. And notice with this one, my a value is still negative. That's how I knew it was an upside down parabola. Okay, so we're going to do it the same way we did all the other maximum kind of things. I'm going to find, first of all, my axis of symmetry, where t is equal to negative b over 2a. That'll be the time when it reaches its maximum height. So I have negative 64 divided by 2 times negative 16. And looking at the problem that I had already worked out from this, where am I? This is this one. So if I do that, I get t equals 2 seconds. So it takes 2 seconds for the ball to reach its maximum height. All right? So what is? So that's the first question, find the time. So that's our first time. And then what is the maximum height? So once we know the time, all we have to do is plug it back in. What is h of 2? So that is negative 16 times 2 squared plus 64 times 2 plus 190. And if I use my handy dandy calculator, it says, well, according to my notes, 254 feet. So that means its maximum height, let me rewrite that, that's pretty ugly. Its maximum height is 254 feet at t equals 2 seconds. So it takes 2 seconds to reach the maximum height, and then it will fall back down again. All right, let's do another height problem. Here, number 6, a rocket is shot straight up, or shot up, so its maximum height in meters t seconds after launch is given by this function. So again, let's look at the function. Negative 8t squared plus 80t plus 25. Notice it's starting at a height of 25 feet, or 25, whatever the units are for height. I guess it's meters this time. So starting at 25 meters. So when will it reach its maximum height? So we're looking for, same thing. We're looking for the axis of symmetry. So, sorry, I got distracted. AOS, t is equal to negative b over 2a. So that's negative 2 times 80. Negative 80 divided 2 times negative 8. All right, it's upside down again. So, and t needs to be positive. A negative time doesn't make any sense at all. So if I do this, it looks like it's at 5 seconds. Okay, so that's when it reaches its maximum height. So this is A, reaches maximum height. Remember, we're supposed to write a sentence. Reaches max height at 5 seconds. What is that maximum height? Well, let's do h of 5. This is B. H of 5 is negative 8 times 5 squared plus 80 times 5 plus 25. And if I use my calculator, then that means it is 225 feet. I'm sorry, meters. That's the maximum height. Okay, now, when does it come back to the ground? Well, let me ask you this question. What is the height when it hits the ground? You're like, the height is 0. So the height is 0 when it hits the ground. So I want 0 to equal negative 8t squared plus 80t plus 25. Oh, look at that. It's a quadratic we get to practice. I'm going to use the quadratic formula just because we haven't done it in such a long time, where t is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So negative b is negative 80 plus or minus the square root of 80 squared is 6,400 minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a, which is negative 8. All right. Now, my calculations tell me that this turns out to be, I didn't write the in-between step. I could, maybe, that underneath the radical is 49 times 49, 2401. So this is negative 80 plus or minus the square root of 2401 divided by negative 16. And the square root of 2401 is 49. So negative 80 plus 49 all over negative 16, and negative 80 minus 49 all over negative 16. So one of these doesn't make any sense. Which one doesn't make any sense? I don't know. I didn't write down all these numbers. I think my t is supposed to be 8 seconds. I think it's supposed to be 8 seconds when it hits the ground again. So at t equals 8 seconds is when it hits the ground. I don't know. So 80 minus 49. divided by 16. 1.9. Oh yeah, that's 1.9. That doesn't make any sense. This one is 1.9. And then this one, 80 minus or plus 49 divided by 16 is 8 and change. So yeah, because 1.9 doesn't make any sense because 1.9 would be before it hits, before it gets to the top. So 8 seconds is the one we're looking for. All right, I kind of rambled on that one, didn't I? All right, well, good luck. And if you need me to do some more, I'll be happy to do more. I can also post the answers on Blackboard if anybody wants me to.